Nigerians are still reacting to the list of alleged looters released by the federal government. And according to Information Minister Lai Mohammed, the names contained in the list, the amount involved and the date the monies were collected and their source are all based on verifiable facts.
Now, all those whose names are included in the list are all members of the People's Democratic Party or supporters. Meanwhile, the PDP is threatening to release its own list of APC looters and has called on the Independent National Electoral Commission to prescribe the ruling APC for using looted funds to finance President Muhammadu Buhari's 2015 campaign.
Now, former Aviation Minister Femi Fani-Kayode and former Niger State Governor Babangida Aliyu, whose names were among those listed, have threatened to sue the federal government. All right, now we have in the studio a PDP chieftain, Segun Shoumi. Good morning. It's nice to see you.
Welcome.
It's nice to see you.
Right.
Good morning.
And we also have public affairs analyst Biodun Shoumi. So we have two Shoumis in the house this morning. Gentle Shoumis, welcome to the show.
You're welcome.
Good morning, viewers.
All right, let me begin with you, Biodun. The federal government, from the Minister of Information, releasing the list, first batch of list, second batch of list. But a lot of Nigerians say that the list of looters is not complete.
Yeah, absolutely. That is correct. If you look at what is going on now, this is not something. It's not really a political decision being made. It's as a result of a judicial intervention. In July last year, Justice Adisa Rabiu Shagari gave a ruling compelling the federal government to release the names of looters based on an application made by SERAP, civil society organizations, and that prayer was granted. In December, the president gave directives, that the names should be compiled. We've seen the first list and we've seen the second list. Maybe more names are to follow. But I'm not surprised that PDP is the main culprit in this issue. Don't forget, the party was in power for 16 years and they control 52.68% of the budget for 16 years. So it's more likely that you have more people, alleged looters, from the PDP.
All right. What do you think about first of the list released? Excuse me, the two lists released by the government that members of your party have put their hands so many times in the kitty?
Well, I think that we should put these matters in proper perspective. There is the general thinking that if a party forms government, a political party has capacity to monitor the administrative aspect of a government. Nothing can be further from the truth. A political party is just a platform. Once government is formed, there are other institutions within the design that is meant to do that. One of them, very, very quickly, is the legislators, who have a lot of oversight functions to look at what's going on, to talk to the ministries, to do the forensic audits, to do the budget, and to see if there are infractions. That's why we pay them the much. And therefore, it's really within their purview over the 16-year period. Each set of the legislators, both the Senate and the Rep, to have looked at that. It couldn't have been the party. For how could the party have really been able to do anything about it? Is the party able to call for the account of a ministry? That's not how these things work. That's the first point I want to lay on the table. The second point I want to lay on the table is that democracy in Africa is evolving. One of the reasons why you have sit-tight leaders in Africa, in my opinion, is that sometimes they fear so much as to the consequences of even allowing democratic space to be deepened to the point where another party can win because of the tendencies of overgeneralization, stigmatizing, sometimes libellous claims that are not true. Now to the content of the list. It is only a party like the APC that will not understand that once you formed government, the business of anti-corruption and the management of it, once you've chosen that that's going to be a flank of your campaign, you should leave it to the agencies that are so entrusted by law and created for that purpose, ICPC, EFCC, and Co, to do that part. And when the EFCC is doing its job, it borders on undue meddlesomeness. if the government now...
But it's not the APC that released the list, as a government official.
That's
that
right.
did.
No. Yes, I'm coming to that.
Okay.
The government official formed by the APC. They've never said Mr. Lagbaja looted. They've always lumped in the PDP. So I'm kind of like paying them back in their own coin. The point I'm trying to make is that the EFCC is the creation of the Act of Federal Republic of Nigeria under our government as part of the effort at managing these so-called these corruption issues. And you would expect that for it to be professional, believable, and trusted, you let that agency do its job, and the government itself, because of the demarketing possibility for the entire country, you will expect them that they come in only very madly. You know why? For if the EFCC had been the one releasing this release, it wouldn't have been a strong argument that where's the APC looters. But because the federal government and the Minister of Information had fallen for the bait, and he has also fallen badly, you are releasing a list of looters. Okay. Alleged. Yeah, I know the judgment of Shagari. I know the judgment of Shagari, but let me try and make the point I'm making. The judgment of Shagari was gone. Sarah was the one that went there, and what she said in that judgment, that release the list of past and present looters. And if you are trying to release the list of past and present looters, then you begin to ask, what are those names that have even been charged in this dispensation? The Obanikoros of this world, and co. The former governor of Rivers State.
Rotimi Amechi?
No, they've not charged Rotimi. Rotimi is the administrative panel of inquiry has indicted him in Rivers. Yes. There's Ojus Okalu. There's Timmy Prayer Silva. There's a whole lot. And when you now release the list, you are clever enough to release it in such a way as if only PDP members are there. I don't have a problem with that. Anybody whose name is on the list has a right to go defend himself, and he has a right to either sue them. But two of them I will use as an example of how you can bungle everything. The Secondus name on that list. Uche Secondus was invited by the EFCC on some allegation of coming in possession of some cars by one businessman who I don't know the details of how the cars got to him anyway. Uche Secondus then got arrested, and he was held and locked up for a couple of days. First, that is even wrong. You're supposed to finish your investigation before you arrest. And once you finish your investigation, you should arrest within a couple of 24, 48 hours. You should charge them. These are not terrorists. Now, Uche Secondus then went to court. His lawyers then went to court. The chair about SCN went to court and said, no, you've arrested this man wrongly. And Justice Tuso of the Federal High Court Abuja granted the reliefs that they sought. Among was that 10 million naira penalty be paid by EFCC for unlawful detention. You don't have a case all thrown out. What did the EFCC do? The FCC waited until they were almost out of time to file an appeal. Then they remembered that they should file an appeal, and they are now trying to get the appeal listed. To get an appeal listed means for you to even be allowed to come and discuss the appeal. You would expect that they would prosecute that case and get it listed and then try to overturn the judgment. They did not obey the order of the court. They did not pay the penalty. They have never invited him ever again for any interrogation, any conversation, nothing on the issue. And suddenly, you want to make a list of alleged looters, and you put his name number 1 on the list. So it gives the impression that there is an effort to, squeeze opposition beyond reasonable doubt and to make opposition die here. But it's not going to happen, because we know that they are just being diversionary. When you've been 3 years in government with nothing to show for it, you can kind of like produce all lists, and you can come up with all sorts of figures. Some of the figures they are banding. If you attend some of the cases in court, if you go through it, I want to charge the journalists now to show a little bit more interest in these cases. You will even find out that when they get to court, what's on the chart list is not even anywhere near the numbers. In any case, take the case of Stella Odua. You are labeling her corrupt and all of that. And I was interested. Why should Stella do 20-something renewal of the airport? Why would she go and get herself corrupt? You know what I found out? I found out that it's just funny. The organization under her wanted to buy some cars for whatever reasons, and then she signed for the cars. They bought it on the lease. She got the cars, and somehow the whole world is getting the impression that Stella took money and ran away with it. What we are saying is that we were the ones that created all the instruments with which we are fighting. It was even Jonathan, under him, that the administration of criminal justice system was passed. And therefore, we mean that this corruption must be tamed. But we must be careful. Let me take you into history.
Hang on.
Yes.
Before we go into history, let's tackle some of these things, because there are a lot. Those viewers watching this are very interested. They want to know what are the issues. Now, Biodo, let me come to you on this. What is basically the objective of releasing this list when some of these issues are even in court, some of them are pending? What is the objective? What is the aim of the government releasing this list at this time?
The government has to, because, look, you can't have justice without the rule of law. You can't tackle corruption without the rule of law. That's the fact. That's so much I agree with Shegun on, that we need to comply with the rule of law. The federal government responded to the decision of a court, to the order of a court, that the names of looters should be published, because some figures were given: money retrieved abroad, money retrieved within the country, some properties were being surrendered. Strangely, the opposition, PDP, was attacking the federal government, claiming, no, it's not true, we didn't receive the figures, challenging the figures. So SERAP went to court and said, look, we need a full disclosure. And then they filed a Freedom of Information action. The court granted it in July last year. By December, the president directed that all the agencies of government, anti-corruption agencies, should compile the names. And eventually, they have finished compiling the names, or the ones they have compiled so far, and that is being released. In my view, if you look at the way the criminal justice system works, there are cases in courts in relation to some, it will be sub judice, so they are probably not going to include those names. You also have the issue of some are under investigation. Before, if you don't have the evidence, you can't include their names. So there are all these issues why a full disclosure probably has not been made, as being demanded.
But by tagging
by
them
the
as looters,
yes,
is the government not taking a position already because they've not been charged to court, and the law is that an accused person is innocent until proven guilty?
Absolutely. There are cases of those already convicted. There are cases of those who did a deal, one way or the other, to say, look, let me return some of the money and then set me free.
Plea bargain.
Yeah, plea bargain. Some people did that. So you cannot claim you are not a looter. So why are you surrendering 1 billion, 2 billion, if in reality you've signed a plea bargain deal with the EFCC? The fact of the matter is, no one knows whether all the people on that list are guilty or not. What we know, and what is public knowledge, is that many of those people are suspected or are known to have done deals with the federal government on the loot. What I even think is that the list did not go far enough, because we have had testimony, people claiming that Jonathan gave the instruction, gave the directive, he authorized the withdrawal of this and that. Not only that, we've had Mrs. Patience Jonathan's running cases, with the EFCC on alleged loot. Those names were not on the list. I don't think that is the final list. I think we're going to have more. We would have more challenges from the political parties. That's their business. APC, PDP will face each other. The truth of the matter is, nobody can claim that we didn't have looting. The public wealth was not looted when PDP was in power. The looting went on. We saw how people became, so wealthy. We all witnessed the last election, how dollars were being moved around, paid to people, and these are from public treasury. And if, for instance, people are claiming that Jonathan authorized, the withdrawal of 150 billion naira, in addition to over $200 million, to use for election, more questions need to be asked. What is clear is that there may be one or two people, like Shegun is saying correctly, well, I want to presume he's right on that, who have issues, with their names being on the list. The federal government cannot be perfect on it, but what is clear is that that list largely contains names of people suspected to have looted public funds.
Can you absolve the People's Democratic Party of, of some wrongdoing during the years of manning the affairs of the country, really?
I have always felt that one of the major desires that ought to be our desires as a people, having chosen democracy, is for us to figure out a way to build strong parties. For it must reasonably mean that we should follow the cue of other nations, where you have two parties and people can make up their mind in between the two strong ones. It's taken us a couple of years to get here. I'm not absorbing the personalities that have been accused. What I am saying, and I insist, is that the structures of a political party, be it APC or PDP or whatever name you call the other parties, they do not have the ability to go look at a government that has come through them and start to audit them. That responsibility lies with, in the first instance, the assemblies with their oversight functions and some of these other
agencies. But don't you think maybe the government got the list from maybe either AFCC, ICPC, and collated names of some cases they are looking into? The point I'm trying to make, which
I really need you to let me make so that our viewers are informed and educated, is that if any man comes to a political party and wins the ticket and gets elected and gets sworn in like President Buhari has been sworn in now as president, it can only be the hope of his party members that he sticks to the manifesto, he does the work they promise, he delivers on the deliverables, and he avoids to put his hand in the till or do things that are untoward. That's a reasonable and good wish. The party itself will suffer some damages if the guy doesn't perform. That's why they can be voted out. But it is wrong to hold a political party for that. If you hold the political party for their own campaign money, or maybe if they overshoot what is the reasonably expected or the bar of what they should spend on campaign money or the rules of how they're supposed to raise campaign money, that will be correct. But to do that, that responsibility rests with the Electoral Act. That is situated with INEC. If INEC were to go to court and take the PDP to court to come and explain all of these things and all that, you will never find me talk about it. If you had taken the personalities that you've taken to court and you had gone after them, nobody shared money for PDP members, everybody who looted for his name and his family and his integrity. But if we do not want to collapse the entire democracy, and that's why you see everybody running away from one party to the other because they're, and with the greatest respect to my cousin, the worst thing that you can be in life is a hypocrite. It is not him. What I mean by the worst you can be in life is a hypocrite is that it will be hypocritical on your part, on the part of those releasing the list. The judgment of Justice Shagari specifically said past and present. Why is Babachir Lawal's name not on that list? Why is Desiani's name not on that list? Why is Obanikoro's name not on that list? Why are so many others that we can, without wanting to be libelous, mention? Why are they not on that list? And if you must do a list, should you not worry about the damaging effect of doing a public trial and destroying people's reputation if by the time you now go to court, you are not able to prove? Because by the time you are not able to prove this case in court, or maybe some of them get acquitted, some of them will be punished, and those who have done wrong should be jailed, but some of them may not have done any wrong. That's why the principle of once a case is before the court, it's sub judice to talk about it. That's why it's there. And the maxim is very clear. No matter what you are trying to do with anti-corruption, the worst you can do from the side of government is to sensationalize it. If this informations, if this narrative was coming from investigative journalists, then who's going to come and start defending a thief? Okay. But it's not coming from the right source. And so you just get the impression that this government, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari and the APC government, wake up 3 years, exactly 1 year to an election, and starts to press the panic button, throwing in the same narrative they threw in when they were coming, that got the Nigerians excited until they gave them government. 3 years down the line, everybody is miserable. They're looking for what to say. There's a challenge going on social media that I find very interesting. Someone started out by saying, anybody that can tell him the list, any project that was conceived, started and finished to the end, he will pay money. The money has risen to well over 500,000 now. Guess what? 2 weeks down the line, no one can claim the money. That speaks volume. And we do not want to be a nation where we'll be the laughing stock of everybody. Transparency International, who is never kind to anybody anyway, has come back to us, done a peer review mechanism, released report that says we're even worse off. And do you know what? The corruption perception index. Yeah, the corruption perception index of the country that we're worse off. And do you know what? Funny is that we always tend in this country to be over-focused on the federal government, pretending as if we're blind to governors who came in broke and are very rich, from all the divides. And I marvel at how none of the APC states has ever thought it fit to take any of his people to court for corruption. So it therefore means that if you are coming to equity, especially public equity, not the legal one, you should be a little bit reasonable, and you should be careful not to overheat the country until you get the whole thing to improve. What I was trying to say about history.
Because of time.
We need to give Jordan some time to also talk. Maybe he will take us down memory lane. But the point there is, you were itching to say something.
Yes.
One point he made there is, if the courts or the EFCC or journalists were the one coming up with this list, it wouldn't have been too much of an issue. But the government being the one coming with this list.
When you actually look at what Segun is saying, he's trying to separate the political party from functionaries, and then claiming that there are other institutions of state like EFCC, SFU, ICPC, to look at all these issues of corruption and do the needful. That's the summary of his submission. But in my view, I don't think so. Look, a political party, you cannot separate, in Nigeria today as it is, you cannot separate the political party from the performance of the government. Who is presenting candidates for elective offices? Political parties. If you're voting, you are voting for political party, not for individual. And therefore, you cannot separate the performance of the political party from the functionaries. And consequently, if a political party is presenting people suspected, to have question mark around their integrity or suspected to have looted public funds, the party should naturally be associated with it because
the party owns the government.
Precisely. That is the situation. Right. In the same way, Segun is making a point that, look, why are people focusing just on the federal government? What about the states? I would explain why. The federal government controls 52.68% of the resources of this country. Each state government not collecting 13% derivation ends up with 0.0072%, less than 1%. Now, each state government collecting 13% derivation ends up with 0.026%. So the federal government has a huge resources at its disposal, likely going to, that can transform people's lives, that can make a difference to people's lives. It also means that more people have access to those resources if they choose to loot it. And that is why there is this focus on the federal government, on the performance of the federal government. That does not mean that we don't have corruption at state level or local government level. It's just that the scale of the problem we have in the country now, when you need to look at it, or if you are to follow the judgment of Justice Shagari, you are bound to end up with a list of current and old functionaries. Many of them will be PDP members.
Okay, but what do we now make of he mentioned the Transparency International's report, 2017 report on Corruption Perception Index, where Nigeria moved down from 136 to 148, that the country is now more corrupt than it has ever been in its history. Well, since Transparency International started keeping records of the country's dealings. What do we make of that really, and what does that speak of the present administration?
It simply means we have not solved the problem of corruption. That is why naming, providing the names of looters, to shame them and also, ensure a form of sense of justice is also correct. Don't forget that the perception index, the Transparency International Perception Index, is about perception. It's not about the reality on the ground. So if you need to work on the perception, you also need to change the narrative. You need to explain to people. People need to know those who are responsible for the problem we are faced with. Don't forget, we still don't have this special anti-corruption court. And going through the legal system is so painstakingly so slow that we've not been able, to make so much progress. The EFCC and other agencies responsible for combating corruption are also underfunded. Yes, there is an increase in funding, but they still don't have enough to do the needful within the shortest possible time. So these are some of the factors responsible for us, going down. But that does not mean that efforts are not being made to tackle the issue of corruption.
And talking about tackling corruption, would you be said to be tackling corruption decisively if the option you're using is plea bargaining?
No, I have never agreed with plea bargain. I have never agreed with it because what it basically means is that bring 50%, we'll let you keep 50%. For me, there is no justification for it. And I remember that the former President Obasanjo was partly responsible for advocating that. But the fact of the matter is whoever has looted public funds needs to be processed through the criminal justice system, public funds retrieved from those people, and appropriate sanctions, imposed by the courts. That's my view on that.
All right, Shogun, you're itching to say something.
Yes, and what I was itching to say is that, you see, surface talk conversations is not equivalent to researched work. How does Transparency International, what are some of the things they look for when they say this? I became very interested in it because I observed that over the years they've converted themselves into some kind of police officer on our country, and their report has very far-reaching implications. One of it is that loose talks. You put on TV, you put on radio, instead of it to put systems in place that shows that, one, you are stopping the thief, two, you are making sure that that cannot happen again, three, you are improving how you quickly put them through trial and jail them. You are just shouting every day. So they take all the buzzers available for information and they count, one of the things. And when they count, they will find out that maybe more than any other country in the world, you're pretending or you are saying and demarketing the country that your country and Nigerians are far more corrupt than anybody in the world. I don't believe that anyway, but that's talk for another day. To the issue. If you say you accept this status quo, I'll just say that. Note the fact that you're accepting it now and never ever depart from it. What I am saying is that governments will always rotate. People will vote one party today, tomorrow they'll vote another party. We owe it a duty. Yes, the party has some in-house work to do, which means that the people must come in better people. But you know one thing about democracy? One of the weaknesses of democracy is that once it is an all-comers game, the people themselves can knowingly, in spite of information available in a primaries, vote a dishonest man. And if the dishonest man would get the ticket, because he's been voted for by his peers, he will go to a general election and he can still win. That's why you look at, why am I bringing the House of Assemblies, the Senate, and all of these instruments of government here? When you say the executive or the federal government, the judiciary is part of it, the legislature is part of it, and the executive is part of it. Now, those who designed it had imagined that if a political party can't call for the audit of a minister, a political party can't fire a minister. A political party can't even fire his own president. But the system already has in play. Why are we paying legislators? Why did we pay them continuously the kind of money we are told we are paying them for close to 16 years before APC came? And that house was not made up of only PDP legislators. How come these kinds of allegations, these kinds of issues were going on? When the ministries come for their budget defense, don't you track budget performance and follow the money a little bit? Now, I'm talking from a very painful and agonizing position that if we're not careful, in 1979, after the then MPN had won, by 1983, when they won their second term, this was how the politics were overheated needlessly. And the resultant is what we got. Now, what I'm scared of now is that in an environment like Nigeria, where you really don't have sufficient social stabilization for the generality of the people, while government cannot trump its chest that it has provided water for everybody, light for everybody, healthcare for everybody, and a very active youth population, it is too risky to be banding words that once it goes out there, people might believe. What happens? Now the APC has released a list, the PDP has released a lot of other people's name on the list. What happens if the Nigerian people just snap? And in that one instance, you have a convoluting madness on your hand that you can't contain. You have not contained Boko Haram. You have not contained herdsmen. Do you want Arab Spring here? So what we are saying is that be more strategic. Let us be able to do anti-corruption in a comprehensive way, that to reflect our level of education. We've been having a university in this country now for more than 60 years. University of Ibadan is way older. And you are asking yourself, what has all the intellectuals in this country? What
your government, the PDP government, wasn't able to solve the problem.
No, I'm not listing the problem and pigeonholing it for all of them. I'm speaking to a tendency that is obviously showing now. Okay. If we continue on this trajectory, we're going to wake up. I've seen members go in some locations in the north and other where they go for a simple function and people are trying to lynch them. They may be lynching a man that has done nothing. And can you now imagine when you now put it on a scale? Take Lagos, for example. If Lagosians will be bold enough and vote out the APC that has been here since 1999 and put another party in charge, do you know what we will discover? This is a place, the APC, the hypocrites that I call them, that are writing into a law for land use charge. They are putting names of company. Where have you ever seen that in the world? But you know what? I am more for Nigeria and its progress. Political parties and the political dispensation is for us to move in the direction that others are moving. And I am saying, the government, once you have handed people to the EFCC and the ICPC, can you please let the EFCC, the IPC, and the courts do their job? They will be more professionally able to release information and figures. For they can't be libelous if they have already charged people on those matters. You run the risk, when you don't allow institutions to run in the country, you run the risk that you're going to meddle everything. And can you see the number of people who are already saying they're going to court, they're going to court?
All right, Shegun, let's try to manage the time now. Yes, let me come to you on this. Yeah. The point there is a little away from the list issue. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo released an open letter some time ago, and then he has made a statement again about failures, about dissatisfaction with the government of the day. We've heard a statement also from former head of state, General Ibrahim Babangida, and all of that. Is the government of the day really concerned about all of these statements from former leaders of the country going forward? Because we are seeing we're heading towards an election very soon in less than a year.
Yeah, I'm sure the federal government will be very worried, including APC, about pronouncements, letters from Obasanjo, IBB, and so on and so forth. The fact of the matter is, what became clear is that people have zeroed in on another option. We've seen the tendency that people are not looking at PDP as an option currently. I mean, some of those people were the founding fathers of PDP. So they're beginning to say, look, hang on a minute, we need to look elsewhere. And that is why Obasanjo is talking about third force, trying to promote, another party as an alternative. It's simply because they acknowledge the fact that PDP has been badly tainted and damaged, by all these allegations of corrupt dealings.
As well as the APC, because it's a pronouncement on both parties. He
started with the APC first.
Precisely.
He started with the APC first.
The two parties.
Precisely. For someone like Obasanjo, he's very worried and concerned that PDP has failed Nigeria, and he thinks APC is also failing Nigeria. Whether that will result in a total failure or not, I don't know. But he's already advocating for a third force, which, according to him, should not be a political party. But I think the development going on in the country is shifting towards another stronger political party, as a third force, because many people felt the PDP has been so badly damaged that it is so difficult to rebrand the PDP. And that is why I'm not surprised the PDP is feeling, the heat over the...
Isn't that the same notion some Nigerians are having about the APC as well? But that aside, I read an article this morning, and some said it when the Minister of Information released the first list, that this seems to be diversionary tactic to somehow sway Nigerians away from issues they should be looking at. They've been shouting about the insecurity in the country, the endless killings of Nigerians, especially in the North Central, that this is just a way to make Nigerians shift to other topics. And what better topic if not
but look at it this way, where you are correct. Many people who are of the view that there are national challenges, serious problems in the country, are correct. We face the killings, the herdsmen killings and all that, violence, insecurity. We still have all these problems with us. But on this issue of the list of looters, it was as a result of a court decision, a judgment given by Justice Adisa Rabiu Shagari in July last year. And it was not the federal government that applied to the court. It was SERAP, a civil society organization that applied to the court to say, look, we need the full list of the looters under the Freedom of Information Disclosure. And that the court granted, compelling the federal government to do something about that. The president tried to comply with the decision of the court.
But in the build-up to the release of the list, the minister didn't make it seem as if the government was compelled by the court to release it.
Well, that's how politicians manage issues. That's how the politicians present their own issues. The facts are very clear.
Yeah, in this, the federal government decided to use its own discretion to release the list, which Nigerians feel is lopsided.
Okay, sorry.
Well, no, I don't think the issue is about being lopsided. I think people feel that the list is not comprehensive enough. You know, there are still names people think should have been on that list, not on it. But don't forget, we've had the first list, second list. We don't know how many more batches.
Okay, yeah, itching to
Justice Shagari gave an order 9 months ago. The FCC has been collecting money. The government is aware the monies are under a single treasury account. Again, our policy. And it takes the APC government 9 months to release first about 4 or 5 names. And then they are bringing the same names. Listen, gentlemen and ladies and viewers. We have a duty to this country. Again, for the opt-in time, I am not. In fact, I even think that the anti-corruption war is too slow for me. I would have rather that as one of the low-hanging fruits, they would have packed them out and kept them where they deserve. If anybody has stolen, he stole for himself. But do you know what? You will, when a problem becomes recurring, you have to dig deep and look at knowledge and look for research to say, okay, why have we not been able to solve this problem in spite of Yakubu Gowon? He built things during corruption. Babangida was alleged corrupt. He built Third Mainland Bridge. He built Abuja. He built everything. Obasanjo was corrupt. You all know what Obasanjo did, the bits he did. Jonathan is corrupt. Nobody built more roads. Nobody built more universities. Nobody built more Almajiri school. Nobody built more power stations than him, and is corrupt. Now, Babangida, President Buhari is here. We're having to deal with all the issues around corruption. Now, we're hearing. We don't want to fall into libel. We're waiting for them to charge if they will be clear. But you know what? The only way we can begin to stem this is some of the things that I'm advocating here. When a political party, I'm not going to use PDP as an example now, let's say Labour Party forms government tomorrow. They will get the best material. The man will be in government. The system is designed in such a way that while the man is on the seat, there are institutions within there. In case the ones that are under the executives have been compromised to the point that they don't even want to talk about this issue, for Pete's sake, what do you make of the legislator? I wonder when they come for budget. Because you know why? If you don't strengthen your institutions to go after the thief, to stop the corruption, to make sure the money is not, then the guy has packed away all the trillions and billions that you're talking about. It's all gone. And then you're running around in circles. And then you are doing the most embarrassing thing.
But would you really blame the lawmakers because they kept on the approval of the 2018 appropriation, for example? They've been complaining since December that representatives of MDAs not coming to defend
what I'm asking for,
budgets.
The system since 1999. You understand me? And so even if we talk all we want and we say we don't agree or we agree, any man that is in court still has to have his day in court anyway. I'm not advocating that they should drop cases. No. If you are in court for something, go do it. The another thing that is there is this. You see with party administration and how parties get funded and how campaigns are driven, it is painful for you to hold people that are managing parties to issues that border on how they were given money by one government or one person. Let me give you an example. And I'm going to use the Honorable Minister with the greatest, Ali Lai Mohammed. He's sitting as the man in charge of the media for them, FCN and then EPC. And he has to pay journalists and do events and all of that. And he puts a bill together and he tells the party and his leaders that this is what we need. And then a few hours later, he gets the money. And while he's busy trying to do the reimaging or trying to help them with their narrative and their propaganda and their lies, he's supposed to also be the one now calling in auditors. Auditor, go and look for me where the money comes. That's not how this thing can work. The only way we can be the gatekeeper we need to be are in two directions. We have to get to a situation where the INEC itself, who has responsibility to look and monitor campaign, we need to strengthen that arm of it so that they can do the job a bit more quickly, and that's where it can hurt politicians. Then the instruments that are created. What do you think was the reason why the PDP government of Jonathan went through the effort of getting the passage of the Administration of Criminal Justice. It was because we realized that, look, we sent Muslim, what's his name, Balogun, the former inspector, we sent him to jail. We have Tafa Balogun. We jailed, we did a lot for people that were in-house. We probably did the man that, no, I can't get all their names off the cup, but you get the point I'm making. A lot of people that were in government were tried by EFCC, were tried by SCC, were stopped under us. Our friends. The man that we even sent away, the main man, they figured out a way under their watch he came in, and they also figured out under their watch that he escaped. Who does that? The people that are supposed to cut grass for ICPC, they figured out that the money was lost. Under their watch, it took them forever to do an administrative panel. They've done the panel, the man is not charged. I don't have a problem with that. The man that is in charge of their chief of staff, what's it called? The money with MTN, nobody's talking. Then you have their Mekanti Beru and the Kachuku of petroleum and all that. We have agreed, they are implementing our policy, single treasury. And yet, they are still having leakages there. Nobody's talking. Look, what is there to profit for us?
And there is news about NHIS boss in another controversy.
NHIS as well. What is there to profit from us Nigerians? We that are younger than them, who have never stolen. What is there for all Nigerians that are watching? What are we going to profit in this drama? The system does not work.
We have to round off now, but I'll give just 1 second to Biodun Showmi to, in all of this naming and shaming now, for the benefit of Nigerians who don't have the access to government, who don't have the capacity to stand before government or stand before officials, as the case may be, what do they stand to gain at the end of the day with this naming and shaming now that it is made public, the names of alleged looters?
Some alleged looters. It's quite very important.
Some
alleged looters. It's quite very important for the public to know the truth of the matter. How did we get to where we are now? Corruption largely, played a major role in bringing Nigeria to our knees. Don't forget, we got debt forgiveness in the past, and we are expected to pump in the resources to provide social facilities, amenities, and welfare programs for the people. But the same money was looted, by some people. So who are the people responsible for this? It's not about PDP or APC.
Thank you.
We have people who have looted treasury. It's quite unfortunate that PDP happens to be the one in power for 16 years. So therefore, they tend to be the one, being focused on. Okay. So this is the situation. The fact of the matter is we must never have a high tolerance for corruption. We must never defend corruption, irrespective of whether it's within APC government or PDP government.
Okay.
But currently, the public is zeroing.
Biodun Showmi,
right.
public affairs analyst, and Segun Showmi, member of the People's Democratic Party. Thank you very much for coming to the show today.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, the clash
Thank you so
of
much.
the Showmis.
Yeah, of course. The Showmi's clash today is really wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.